Hi, everyone. I wanted to take a moment and share some really exciting new Canvas updates and new releases that will be deployed this Saturday, March 20th. So if you are doing any work in your Canvas courses over the weekend, or when you come back and log back in on Monday, there may be some new things that you notice and that you're not sure about. So I wanted to show them to you now so you know a little bit more about what to expect. So let's get started. The first big update is that SpeedGrader is now going to have a reassignment option. There will be a little button that you can push back an assignment to a student's dashboard to reassign it to them after you've given them some feedback so that they could resubmit after making some edits. So essentially, the big thing to know is that if you push this back to a student, the due date will not change. And that's a good thing. You may want to have a different due date if you push it back and say you want your student to have an extra day or two to work on it before they resubmit. But remember, when you sync assignments to Skyward, they all have to have the same due date. Otherwise, Skyward doesn't know what to do with the assignment. It can't figure out where it goes or how to make it fit with all the others. So it's a good thing that the due date doesn't change. The only thing is that when you're in SpeedGrader, in order to even have the option for reassignments, you have to first add a comment or give the student feedback within SpeedGrader. That will then activate and enable this reassignment button. In essence, you can't just push it back to a student and expect them to know what you want them to do differently without providing feedback first. So here's what that looks like. On the left side, you have, our traditional little comment space where you can attach a comment, record an audio or video, or even type in a comment and press submit. Once you click submit with that comment so that it goes to your students, that reassign button that's going to be positioned just below that text field is now going to show up as an enabled button that you can now click on. And once you click on it, it'll push it back to students and it will show up on their dashboard as something that they need to finish and resubmit. In terms of the fine print or things you should know about this new feature is that it's only currently going to be available for online submission types. So in the picture, you can see online submission types are going to include your text entry where students type in to a comment field in Canvas, a website URL, a media recording, or even a file upload. But I'll share with you another cool file upload new release too here in just a couple of slides. So again, the due date does not change and you're not going to have this reassign option currently for an external tool assignment, anything that's on paper or something with no submission. And then you'll also need to make sure that the assignment allows for multiple attempts. There are some initial reports from the beta environment where they've been testing this feature that if you have an assignment set to unlimited attempts, it's not giving you that option. So if you do typically have unlimited attempts and you want to have the ability for this new reassign button, just switch to multiple attempts and set it to some kind of large number, like give them 10 attempts or something to make sure that they essentially still have unlimited attempts, but that you will have the option to use that reassign button. So that brings us to the next update, and this is one that I am probably the most excited for this month, and this is adding new quizzes in modules. The reason this is so exciting is because the new quizzes LTI it was kind of created in Canvas as an external tool, and we've talked about this several times this year, but classic quizzes will be going away and it's going to be depreciated this summer, and so new quizzes will be the only kind of online quizzing tool that we'll want to use moving forward. But what made this tricky is anytime if you've been using new quizzes this year, if you go to add it to your module, you can't create it like you can create a new discussion or create a new page or something with the module. You have to go into the quizzes link in your course navigation and create it first and then add it to the module. But what was super tricky is that you would think you were adding a quiz, right? But when you go into quizzes under modules, you couldn't find any of your new quizzes because they were actually housed under the assignments dropdown. It was super confusing, but the idea is that, external tools are assignments in Canvas. And since new quizzes was built out in the back end as an external tool, it ended up getting lumped into assignments. So this new feature will allow you to add new quizzes through the quizzes dropdown menu, but more importantly, you'll also be able to add and create a quiz from scratch straight from modules instead of having to go to the quizzes link in course navigation. So here is kind of how that will look like, or what it will look like. This is that drop-down box. Anytime you add that hit the little add or plus sign button in a module. So you could add a new page, you could add an external URL, you could add a discussion. And if you add a quiz, your list of quizzes to add or that would populate used to only include classic quizzes. But now when you go to quiz, it will include all of your new quizzes and your classic quizzes. And with that second arrow there, it's showing us how you'll be able to toggle or select either to add a new quiz or to add a classic quiz and build it from scratch. So then you just type in your quiz name. Once you hit the add item, you'll be able to build it out from that edit screen as you had through course navigation, the quizzes link there. New quizzes will always be the default option. And in terms of fine print with this new update, the biggest thing that I would recommend is to make sure in your course settings that you do have new quizzes toggled to the on position, or just, I think now it's actually a check mark. So if you just click it to make sure that you have a green check mark, you should be good to go. In theory, it should work regardless, especially after this summer when new quizzes officially takes over as the primary quiz engine in Canvas. But there have been some initial reports from the beta environment where it's not necessarily working. You can add it to the module, but then once you get to the edit screen, you receive an error code. So if that's happening to you, just double check that in your course settings, you have activated that feature. I don't think it will be a huge issue for most of us, because I think a lot of us turned that on already at the beginning of the semester when we built out our courses. But if not, that would be kind of your first step for troubleshooting. The next new feature this month is a webcam submissions option. This is kind of cool because now students will be able to use their webcam on their devices to snap a picture and upload an image instead of taking a picture separately and kind of pulling it in from their drive or their email or their device. This is really making using Canvas on a device like a Chromebook or a PC or MacBook or things like that much more similar to using the Canvas mobile app, because on a phone, if students have an app, they can snap a picture with their phone and kind of upload a picture, but now they can do that with their devices too. So kind of a nice user-friendly addition, especially for students, to make it easier for them to demonstrate what they've done. And then the fourth big update is discussion sorting. So if you've been using Canvas discussion boards this month, you can now sort discussions, oldest to newest. It seems like a small little tweak, but in terms of sorting through and finding those posts that you haven't read yet, it's really nice to be able to sort those so you see the newest additions to that thread towards the top. While we are talking about it, as we look ahead, it's going to be really important to for this summer to make sure that you're planning ahead for the changes with new quizzes and the Google Assignments LTIs. A lot of us have been using Google Drive Cloud Assignments, and we actually seem to love it because over 75% of the district voted for that one in Canvas Madness to advance to the Final Four. So the Google Drive Cloud Assignments will unfortunately be depreciated. That is a Google decision, and they are shifting to their new kind of app or LTI, and that's Google Assignments. So I would encourage everybody to try creating one assignment with the Google Assignments LTI just to kind of get a feel. It's still a little bit quirky. It's going to feel very much like Google Classroom, but it will be the only supported Google option for next year. So starting September 1st, Google Drive Cloud Assignments will not be available to you. So for the fall, we expect to kind of only use the Google Assignments LTI so that you're not using one in August and then have to switch for the rest of the year in September. And also classic quizzes I mentioned will be depreciated as well. It will still be accessible for teachers, but students won't be able to view any of their feedback or anything beyond October. So July is kind of the first wave of kind of pulling it back. October will be the second, and after that point, it'll be pretty much unusable. And then later on, won't even be an option to select in Canvas. So just two things to have on your radar as we start kind of maybe thinking about next semester. And then finally, I don't know anything about this yet. I haven't seen it in beta, but I am really intrigued and really excited to learn more, hopefully this month. But in April, Canvas is expecting to release a new assignment option called annotated assignments. And in theory, it should function kind of similarly to like a Kami assignment where students can annotate a little bit more and submit those assignments. So we'll see what that looks like. I'm excited to share more with you about that in April. Every month, Canvas does a lot of different new releases and updates. Typically, these are things that happen more on the back end of things that we don't always notice as teachers on that front interface of Canvas. But this month, jam-packed with 4 kind of new features. So as you play around or you notice them, be sure to let me know if you have any questions. I don't know if there will be any kind of quirks or things that pop up with them, but we'll explore them together and kind of problem solve and figure it out. So if you have any questions, let me know. And otherwise, I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks, everyone.